Hello, I'm Derek Matthews, and welcome to Arundel County United Real Talk. In this episode, we will get an update on a few United activities going on around town. But first, let's look at a couple of those uplifting stories from here around the county. What an incredible weekend of activities here in Anne Arundel County this past week. There were community family reunions where the Annapolis community gathered at Williams Whalen football field for the third annual Family Day. Shout out to Big Brother Troy and the LOC for making such a great event happen. We're also making great progress on our Thriving Communities initiative, which is centered around youth gun violence in the city of Annapolis. Myself and my co-chair Brett had some great conversations with some amazing people who shared their years of life here in the city of Annapolis. I also had the honor of participating in a forum on gun violence, and we looked at it as a public health issue. Our own Anne Arundel Medical Center hosted this event. We discussed topics to include gun violence as a public health issue, the unique role of guns in American society, evidence-based approaches to stopping gun violence. It was an amazing session, and thanks again for our medical center for putting on such an event. We still are open for hire up until the 27th to become an Anne Arundel County police officer. So if you believe you have what it takes to join the best of the men and women in blue, don't wait any longer. This March class of 2019 will be the first academy class in our brand new facility. Looking forward to that. Thanks again, and big kudos to Chief Altamari for pulling off such a wonderful task. Take a look at this promo, and we're going to show you some highlights of what it takes to be a police officer. You can become an officer with the Anne Arundel County Police Department. We are hiring right now. There are so many options for your career path: K-9, SWAT, criminal investigation, narcotics, patrol, aviation. We need dedicated professionals to join our team. There is a limited window to apply, so don't wait. Your community needs you. Anne Arundel County Police, it's more than just a job. Man, I love our ladies and gentlemen in blue. And again, if you want to speak to a recruiter, call 410-222-8677, and they'd love to speak to you. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to have Chanel Compton, the executive director, and Miss Sabriyah Hassan, the programs director from the Banneker-Douglass Museum. Let's take a look at our community calendar for events happening around town. We'll be right back. And welcome back. We are here with two incredibly young ladies who are here from the Banneker-Douglass Museum. I have Chanel Compton, who is the executive director, and Sabriyah, who is the program manager.
Program director.
Program director.
Yes.
Okay. So I want to jump right into this, and let's have some real talk. That's why you all are here. Yes. So I appreciate your time and coming out today. First of all, tell us a little bit about who you are. Sabriyah, let me start with you. Where are you from? Where'd you go to school?
Yes. So yeah, that's great. So I'm Sabriyah Hassan, of course, and I am originally from Brooklyn, New York, but here by way of Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay, listen to that, Baltimore. It is Brooklyn.
I hit it right away. I attended the University of Maryland, College Park, where I majored in Spanish, graduated back in 2002, started teaching Spanish, and eventually attended Loyola College of Maryland, where I got a master's degree in education. So the majority of my background is in youth development, youth programming, and that's really the way I met Chanel, which was actually back in Baltimore, where we were both working on special projects around youth work in Baltimore City, which eventually, of course, led us here to the museum together.
Awesome. Well, welcome to Anne Arundel County.
Thank you. I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
Chanel, I know a little bit about you. I know you had a lot of work going on in Baltimore, which is now, I hear, where you two met. But tell us a little bit more about you.
Well, I'm originally from Bridgeport, Connecticut. And majored in fine arts from Rutgers University, and came on down to the DMV, and that's where I became very invested in museum education. Got a degree in arts management, which is basically how to run a cultural organization. Started doing work for the Smithsonian pertaining to museum education and community outreach. And I think it was within the DMV area that from that work I had this purpose that African American history and culture can be a tool for community building, no matter what community it's in or represented in. So it can impact people of all ages and backgrounds, and it's impacted me as that exploration has impacted me as a person, as an artist, as an educator, as a leader, and then I became this is long-winded.
That's okay.
I was the executive director for the Prince George's African American Museum for a bit, and that's when I was recruited as the director for the State's Museum. So it's been a phenomenal journey.
So that kind of segues me into the next question I wanted to ask. So what does a program director do? What's a day look like for you?
Well, a day, there is no answer to that question. A day can look anywhere from networking, speaking to people who are interested in hosting programs and events at the museum. But really what my job is to do is to create and come up with relevant programs and events that pertain to the exhibits that are there at the museum, or any type of campaigns that we may have going on. So, for example, this is the 200th celebration of Frederick Douglass's birthday, the museum's namesake. So really just creating programs and events around the bicentennial presentation, the bicentennial celebration, and the Douglass Reading Room, which is the temporary exhibit that's now located on the first floor of the museum.
And that's what we toured yesterday. And folks can come in there and they can sit and they can read and really actually touch stuff. I think when we were in there yesterday, we were a little leery of we were waiting for somebody to say, don't touch that. But in actuality, that's not the case. That's what you want people to do, is come in and don't touch the art, but have a good time. How about as executive director, what are you engaged in every day?
Well, no day is the same. So like Mr. Hassan said, there's a lot of networking involved. I'm also the director of the Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture, which is one of the governing bodies. I know. Which is one of the governing bodies of the museum. We're actually celebrating our 50th anniversary in 2019. So meeting with community stakeholders, different institutional partners, grant writing, assisting with programming, managing commission-related events, interfacing with the governor's office of community initiatives. And my job is really to build bridges from the museum to local and regional and national platforms, So our vision is to transform the museum from a community gem to a national treasure. So there's a lot of a lot of networking and communications
gotcha.
involved with that.
So I've heard the word community from
Right.
both of you,
Yeah.
and we know that this is what I live and breathe every day. So what are some things, as you all see it, that the community can engage in more to make an impact on what we see every day, specifically with our young people?
So for me, I think, and it's really something that I heard Director Compton mention yesterday, is, you know, being in such a historical place as Annapolis, where we know there are young people, but unfortunately, we don't see a lot of young people at the museum, and or we do see them, but most of the young people we see are not from the area. So really trying to create those intergenerational opportunities for young people to come to the museum and see it as a community hub, a safe space. So that's a lot of programming ideas that we have moving forward, is how can we have young people and adults here at the museum interacting, engaging, and learning from each other.
So what are some fun, specific things that you two and the museum are actually doing to make that happen?
So I think the gifts that Sabriyah and I have is having a background in youth programming. So once we started at the museum, we really wanted to do more youth-focused teen events, and also youth-led events. So we just premiered our first annual Frederick-Douglass Youth Conference that the breakout sessions were all youth-led in areas of gun violence, anti-racism, mental health and self-care.
Mental health
and
is huge.
Exactly, and so much more. And we had our Community Day celebration, giving a platform for Maryland youth to showcase their talents for the greater community. We have a youth exhibition that's going to premiere at the museum in 2019. So doing more youth-driven, youth-led program will help have young people feel like they are a part of our institution, so that they have a voice at our institution.
Right, and that's critical. So let me stay right there for a second. So the next question is, tell the audience, and we're talking to the young people, we're talking to everybody, but you know, my heart is the young people, two beautiful African American women. What are you two, what's driving you every day to continue to do what you're doing at the next level?
Well, for me, it's definitely service. I just want to be of service to young people, right? To to everyone, but definitely if we're speaking to youth, and to offer opportunities and resources for young people to be able to have their voices amplified, right? To offer a space where they can feel empowered, that they feel like they can be agents of change in their own communities. And that could be done, that is done through our programs, through our exhibitions, and through just the history and legacy of the museum itself, being an incubator for Black history, art, and culture, is inspirational. Just as soon as you walk in the doors, you're inspired.
It's definitely a vehicle of hope. I mean, when you walk in, you can feel. And for me, I remember that location being Mount Moriah Church. So to me, as I even walk the street and break the corner and see it, it's like memories come. And looking at that glass that's up, you know, I mean, there's a lot of, I heard you say yesterday which you could slide it down. I was thinking the same thing, because I could actually see names up there. There's a few names that I kind of recognize and made me wonder if they're from Browns Woods. So before I wrap this up, young people are often trying to figure out where they are and where they should go and trying to find themselves. So I always
as we all are.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
The journey isn't over.
But what do you see in the community, or maybe even by use of the museum, that we can have these young folks believe that there's a vehicle that's there for them to go to? Should they come to the museum more? Should they, what should they be doing more to find that place? Sabriyah, let me.
So I don't know where I heard this the other day, but the future is now.
Okay.
So I don't think a lot of young people realize the impact they can have. And we are there. So, you know, we want them to know that we're approachable.
Okay.
As a program director,
Yes.
I'm always interested in input,
Okay.
community input, young people's input.
Okay.
So we're there. Come to the museum.
Okay.
Ask at the front, you know,
Sure.
pop up. It's, you know, Miss
Sure.
Hassan here. Come downstairs. Have meetings. Plan
Sure.
meetings with us.
Okay.
We want them to use the museum as a platform. I think of a similar museum in Pittsburgh where the young people are actually taking a day out of the year to plan an entire night led by youth, for youth, just to give them that outlet. You know,
We should do that.
oh, we will.
We are.
Let's do that. Let's actually
No, we
stop
are.
right there
Yeah.
and agree that that's what we should do. Because I
We're
got to
doing it.
wrap up. So we're going to make that happen.
We are.
So ladies, thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you so
very
much.
much. Ladies and gentlemen, that'll wrap up this interview. We'll be right back with more Real Talk.
Please have a seat. I'll be honest. Your resume is not what I'm used to.
I know.
Okay, so what would you bring to my company?
What do you need?
I need a hard worker.
Good. I've got 2 part-time jobs and to help my parents pay the bills.
I need problem-solving skills.
I got through high school without a car, a phone, or a computer.
No college degree, though.
Not yet, but life's taught me a lot, and I'm ready for more.
Well, you're not the typical kind of candidate that I hire. But you are exactly what I'm looking for.
Your company could be missing out on the candidates it needs most. Learn how to find, cultivate, and train a great pool of untapped talent at gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Now it's time for our closing words of self-inspiration. In my current position, I see lots of people taking on causes for whatever their reasons are. And while I commend them all, I'll also sometimes take note that some tend to be very generous in sharing their nonsense, fear, and occasional ignorance. And while some seem to be eager to feed you their negativity, I want you all to remember that sometimes the diet we really need to be focused on is that need for spiritual and emotional. Be cautious with what you feed your mind and your soul. Fuel yourself with positivity and let the fuel propel you onto positive actions. We are not defined by our circumstances. I can assure you that that's true. Whatever the situation you may find yourself in, it's easy to allow it not to become the lens through which you define yourself. You're stronger than whatever circumstances you're facing at that moment. Potential is the one power you should always have. Here is a closing AA United thought for you today. Look for someone that has a much bigger problem than the one you have. Focus on serving them. You'll notice your problem will seem to shrink and disappear. That wraps up this week's edition of Real Talk. You can watch this episode and archive episodes online at any time on Facebook or YouTube by simply searching Arundel TV. Please tune in again next month for a new look and a real look at Real Talk. We'll see you next time.